Folks, listen.
Welcome to another episode of D&M, bringing questions for you that we find interesting. We don't know until the other person says them, bring a mystery to the table for all the generations. Two people from two different backgrounds trying to make sound about the world around us. They both bringing light to the questions they ask. Dina and Michael sliding in your DMs with class. Hey, it's D&M. Hey, it's D&M. D&M. It's D&M. Hey, it's D&M.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 14 of Sliding with D&M. This week I have global and Dina has cultural, and I'm going to start us off this week. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing great.
Good.
How are you?
Good. Keeping busy. School's starting to wind down, which is exciting. So
That's good. Yeah, I know school
Yeah.
is like always ever present in the forefront of what you're doing. And, you know, me as a fabulous 42-year-old adult is just, you know, trying to adult a little bit better each day. But that just takes just as much work. So, yeah, life is good. This week was long. I had a show
that's
that
how
happened.
I feel too.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a long week this week. I had a show that happened this weekend, and it went great. They were fantastic. The students were great. But for some reason, this week was just a little bit longer than what I normally feel at this point in musical season. But it's okay, though. I get to do what I love, so you can't complain when you get to do what you love. So anyway, you're going to hit us up with that question.
Yeah. So there's obviously been a lot of talk about the military and the U.S. military in specifically, like the U.S. military is the biggest military in the entire world, right? So
Well, yeah,
it's actually
I
known.
mean-
It's known as the military industrial complex, right? So it's a huge group. It's a huge money maker. It's a huge group of people who employ thousands and thousands of people, right?
Yeah, I mean, you do
so-
know that it has been proven, and it is statistically correct, that the U.S. spends more on the military than the next, I don't know, like 20 plus countries on like the global economic list of countries that are, you know, decent and doing
put together.
Put together. Like, isn't that crazy to think about that? We spend more money on our military, which, by the way, let me just say, so you can get to your question, but let me just say that I think it's important, you know, but the crazy fact is that we're spending more money on our military than the next 20 plus countries combined. You think about that number, and the countries on that list are not, you know, little peon countries. Like, they're substantial countries. Anyway, okay, go back to your question.
So my overall question is, how do you feel about the size of the military and the reach of the military? So we obviously have so many thousands of bases worldwide. And fun fact, the U.S. military doesn't even have accurate statistics on how many bases they have worldwide. There was actually a professor of a university who set out to map every single U.S. base in the world, and he could not do it. And then the Department of Defense was tasked with the same thing a couple of years ago, and they actually used his data because they did not have updated statistics on how many bases they have worldwide. So I just want to know, what is your opinion on the reach of our military, because we are in every single international country except a few, I think, like North Korea and a couple others. But what are your feelings on the reach and the size of the U.S. military?
Wow, that's kind of a hard question. I don't think I wasn't really prepared, but I'm never really prepared for the questions you ask. And that's the beauty of this. So, okay, so let me first say thank you to those that serve. You are putting your life on the line so I can enjoy the freedoms that I'm able to enjoy. So in my mind, there is not enough gratitude or enough things that I can do to show my appreciation. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing I think we do as a military kind of need to reevaluate where we are and what we're doing and how we are using funds to do the things that we need to do. I kind of believe a little bit, I think, more so my thought process has changed in the last several years, that there are probably some places that we really just don't need to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are like, oh, well, we have to be there to help keep the peace, and we're the ones that are trying to keep the peace and keep things together. But at the same time, we also have to let those countries and those people be able to figure out how to govern themselves without us constantly being the forefront to step in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we're in lots of places that you and I can't even imagine. But I think there comes a point where it becomes too much. I think it becomes a point where, and you kind of saw a little bit of this evidence when we were in Iraq. And at first, the people were joyous. They wanted us to be there, right? When we first went in after Desert Storm and all of that. But then it got to the point where they really didn't want us there anymore. And I think we have to find that balance of, okay, we can come in and help, but then when do we overstep our bounds? Like, when is it too much? And we need to take a step back and be like, okay, you guys need to, take over and do the things that you need to do to govern your people, because those cultures are so different from our culture, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
cultures overseas, they have different, religions, different beliefs, and different ways of living. And so I think sometimes it's seen as if the military is trying to kind of, I guess, impress upon or put what American ideals are. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's okay to try to show people what they are, but then we have to let those countries make the decision. Do I want to adopt that policy and do that? Or do I want to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that? It's like a little bit of pepper and a little bit of paprika and kind of make my own seasoning blend. And so I think we just need to evaluate where our funds are going. And I think, too, a lot of those funds, like, we could divert some of those funds to helping military personnel when they come home, because you hear so many military personnel when they come home, they struggle with mental health, mental wellness, and they aren't able to function and they have such a hard time. So why can't we take some of those funds of not being in certain countries or being certain places and divert that to helping our servicemen and servicewomen when they get
Mm-hmm.
home, establishing them and giving them the tools they need to be successful, because the only life that they've known for a year and a half to 2 years is to be combat ready. And when they come home, they don't necessarily need to be combat ready. So we need to figure out how we can help bridge that gap and bridge that transition. So it's kind of my thought
Yeah.
on that, I think. What's yours?
I mean, I have issues with the the way that we go about doing things in other countries. I would love to see the U.S. military, instead of taking like balls blazing, kind of like shoot everything up, bomb everything up, in the name of terrorism and the war on terrorism. I would love to see the U.S. military do something like the UN, um, the Peace Corps does. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Something more
Do it.
humanitarian.
Okay, so sorry. My question is this. So do more of that, or
Yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
you're saying they're already doing it, but they need to do more of that than what they're
Yeah, I
doing.
mean,
Okay.
there is stuff that we do, that is more humanitarian than it is violent, but I find that often the issue is that we don't do the humanitarian cause well, or we don't finish doing it. And then it leaves often those countries in a worse place than when it began, right? So, like, a prime example of this is, in Afghanistan, I believe, we started building something called the Ring Road. And it was
Okay.
basically, an economic tool for this country to connect their major cities and their major exporting routes, right? So
Okay.
they could have a chance to economically pull themselves out and become a better country, right?
Yes. Okay.
So we also did this for our own sake. We wanted to use this road to be able to transport military easier, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what ended up happening with the ring road is we kind of like abandoned it a couple years into the project because we saw conflict in another Middle Eastern country. So we pulled funding from that project and kind of just left it to shit, basically. So what ends up happening is that independent militia groups from these countries, they took over parts of the ring road, and now they're basically like cartel hotspots. You know what I mean? Like you can't pass by there without paying a fee or risking your life because they control these sections of the road. So a lot of the road is now bombed too because there was mines placed on the road and they blew up bridges and in efforts to control these parts of the land, right, where the road runs through. So
Yes.
I find that in my mind, what I connect that to is we made a promise to this country and the people of this country to help pull them out of this economic downturn, right?
Yes.
We made them a promise to make them more prosperous, and in the end, we didn't keep our promise, right? So we came in there, and arguably, we made things worse because we built these roads that are now
Not
held in,
usable.
yeah, they're not usable and they're held in control of militia groups, right? So I feel like oftentimes the people, the citizens of that country, will hold a grudge against the U.S. and they find us to be somebody that can't keep their promises, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
that's how terrorism builds, right? So you have a grudge against a country and you dedicate your life to doing something about it, right?
Yeah.
So I just have an issue with how we go about things. I don't think that we need to have a military base in pretty much every country in the entire world when I think the next country that has military bases internationally maybe like China or Russia, and they only have like a handful compared to us where we have thousands. We're in every single country, every single continent for sure. I just I have an issue with how large of a military we have, and it is useful, but at the same time, we talk about issues that other countries have, but we have our own issues at home, and yet we still feel the need to impose the way we do things to other countries where they don't even work at home for us oftentimes. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. No, I think I kind of agree with that a little bit that we, you have to figure your own crap out before you can try to figure somebody else's crap out. And
Mm-hmm.
it's clear that there are definite, issues here where we live, that those countries have the same issues, yet we're trying to say you need to do XYZ, but yet we're not doing XYZ. So it can come off, as hypocritical. Um, and maybe even a little bit judgmental as well. I know
Mm-hmm.
that might sound weird to say. I think that we just have to figure out a better way to use our military. You know, they're
Yeah.
doing, I know that, they are, and this is the other thing too. You have to think about people that go into the military when they start out, they are young men and young women who are 18, 19. They haven't even scratched the surface of living a full life yet. And yet here they are willing to dedicate their lives to a cause and to something that matters to them. So I think we have to figure out a way that how do we keep that cause that they feel so strongly and passionate about? How do we continue to make it matter so that it matters not only here in America, but it matters over in other countries where we can make things better, but yet not impose on those other countries. And I think we haven't figured that out yet. I don't think that we need to be completely isolationist. We tried that once and it didn't work out so well for us. So, um, so I think it's important that we have a connection with various countries, you know, because that's how you have dialogues, that's how you have conversations, that's how you figure things out. But there has to be kind of a balance. And I don't think we've been able to find that balance yet. And like I said, I have the utmost respect for those that serve in the military. I know me personally, honestly, personally, I I don't think I would be able to do something like that. Not that I don't love America and I don't love our country. I just don't think I know myself personally to give up that freedom. I just know personally I wouldn't be able to do it. So the fact that there are people that are willing to do it on my behalf, to me, is a huge sacrifice that they're making. And I, so I can enjoy the things that I do, but I also know that we have to do better. And I think a big thing for me, especially with our military, is we have to have the supports for when they come home, because you just hear too many tragic stories of when they come home, there wasn't enough support. There wasn't enough of the things that they needed so they could bridge that gap of, being combat ready all the time to now I'm going to come home and try to live a civilian life. Um, and
Yeah,
so,
I can agree with that. I mean, I think it's interesting that the military budget is so vast, and a lot of it is into like development and keeping the machinery working and ammunition and weapons, right? But I don't think
yes.
enough of it is allocated to what happens afterwards. So you hear about all these vets come home who don't have jobs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to me that there is so much money involved in the military budget, but we don't think about what happens afterwards, and we don't allocate funds to what happens afterwards. You're kind of just thrown to the wolves and they say thank you for your service and that's it, right?
Yeah, no, completely 100%. I mean, now listen, those that are listening, we live in a decent community, but every community has homelessness, every community has poverty. And I know that when we see people, as we're driving down the road, driving down the main streets of where we live in the main areas, you see a lot of times their cardboard sign says homeless vet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because they don't have the support and what they need. And so I think we just have to figure out how to use our military budget better. Like, we're using it, and like you said, a lot of it is for the upkeep and for keeping the machinery working and probably housing and food, because you have to have pay for those things. And those things, yes, I get, but I think also there has to be, like you said, more of a humanitarian side afterwards to support the people in the country who we're going into, to say, okay, we're going to help you, we're going to do this, and also to support the humanitarian side of when our vets come home. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, we can figure it out and we can, make it better and do better. I still, like I said earlier before you asked your question, it still boggles my mind that we spend more money on our military than the next 20 plus countries combined. And
Yeah.
I that's an insane amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
that we're spending on our military. And I wonder sometimes too, um, what if we didn't spend that amount on our military? Like, what would happen? How would other countries react? Would they be more open to discuss things with us?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of always maybe fearing the might of the US military is going to swoop in and get us. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they saw that,
I I also would just love to see what happens if we do decide to cut back military spending to other levels that similar GDP producing countries to us spend on their militaries, right?
yeah.
I would love to see what would happen with that money if we would reallocate it. If, for instance, we put it into education, right? Like what would happen? And that's what happened with Japan after World War II, when they weren't allowed to have their own military anymore. It was an international agreement.
Yeah.
They allocated upwards of 90% of their military budget, which was huge at the time, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They allocated it all to education. And now Japan is one of the most educated countries out there. And they have technological innovations that sometimes stunt our own, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, they're making everything over there. They're making it.
Mm-hmm.
They're making those PS5s. Everybody get your PS5, right?
Well, you can't get those. They're sold out. There's a chip shortage. So
Well, yes,
I don't know.
You can't get them right now. But I'm just saying, like, you know, they're making stuff that's cool. You know, they are innovative.
Mm-hmm. So I would just find it interesting to see like what our country would look like if we did decide to reallocate all those funds to something like education or to something like infrastructure, right? How different would the U.S. look? And I do agree with you. I believe that some countries for sure would be more willing to have a dialogue with the United States and have diplomacy with the United States, because I think most oftentimes, I mean, you saw this with Trump and North Korea. Most oftentimes it's a battle between who has more power, right? So it was, if you fire a nuke, we're going to fire a nuke back. But then all of a sudden, for some reason, the conversation shifted and they were able to communicate together, right? So I would find it interesting to see what happens if in the future the U.S. decided to pull some of the nuclear weapons back and some of the funding back, because I know right now there's a huge international push to disband nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just because we have a history with Japan, obviously, of using those types of weapons, but we kept developing them, and now they're hundreds of times more powerful than what we had in Japan. And nobody has still used one, obviously, but it would devastate the planet, right?
Oh,
it would destroy everything.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm interested to see if that would happen and if that would be something that we will see in our lifetimes. And I do think that if we do decide to kind of restructure our military spending, I think, me personally, I feel like a huge piece should be put back into the people that serve, because they are willing to give up, you know, they are making the conscious choice, but they are willing to give up some of the comforts and the things that I enjoy, you know, so that they can help protect us. So I think it needs to go back into the people. I've always felt that way. And just making sure that when they come home from their service, whether it be a year, 2 years, I mean, some of them spend lifetimes in the military serving and protecting us, that we make sure that we do right by them and make sure that they have the supports that they need when they come home, that they are able to function. That was a good question.
I agree. Thank you.
That was hard. That was a little bit hard. I didn't think it would be that hard. Like, you know, because, you know, the military in America is something that can be very polarizing when you have dialogues about it. Some people are like gung-ho, I love America, let's go, military strong. And then there's others that's the complete opposite of the spectrum, you know, where they're like, well, our military's too big. And so I think trying to find a balance, I think that's the big thing. And we used to have a little bit of a balance, but I think we've gotten away from that. And so trying to find that balance of how can we have a military yet also, you know, find the humanitarian side of it as well. So that question was hard for me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I just think that globally, the outlook on the U.S. military is very different, obviously, than it is at home.
For sure.
I feel like there's not any other country in the world that really takes as much pride in the military of their country as the U.S. does. Just everyday civilians even, right? So I don't know. I found it interesting because that's something that I think about, especially the politics of the US military and the affairs that we get into as a country, sometimes for ulterior motives, right? So I just found it interesting. So thank you for your response.
Okay.
Why don't
Yeah,
we
anytime.
why don't we transition to your question?
Okay. So my question for this week is kind of, I'm going to talk about some things that are kind of personal a little bit, just a smidgen,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am a curvy girl. I'm a curvy girl. I own it. I appreciate it. I love it. And so I often say, when I say hashtag curvy girl swag because I have lots of curvy girl swag. Let's just be clear. And so as I'm watching my daughter kind of grow into her body, she's preteen going into the teenage years, and her body's changing and developing, and I'm very conscious of how I speak to her about her body because I don't want her to have that image of, I have to be the perfect girl, I have to be this size, and because listen, it doesn't matter. You can work as hard as you want. You got genes from your mom and your dad. And so those genes are going to dictate, for the most part, how your body looks. You can work hard to change it and kind of maintain it, but there are just certain aspects of your body that are just going to look that way because of the DNA that you have, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and I've just been very more conscious about it lately. And especially I've had a couple friends post on Facebook just some things, about what is the perfect body image and how we need to have more body positivity. And you do see it out there, but I still think there's this thing of kind of a little bit of shaming as well. So my question for you is this. I know that you're in a committed relationship right now, but if you were given the opportunity, would you date someone that was a little bit more curvy, a little bit fuller, or, sometimes we like to say a little bit thick right there. Would you be open to that possibility?
Um, I mean, I would be open to it if I found them attractive and their personality was good. But I think for me personally, it's just it's less about how curvy or how thick you are, and more about just how you feel about yourself and that level of like personal security, right? If you're insecure, obviously no one's gonna you got to love yourself first before anyone else can love you. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
But I feel like about like being a bigger person, obviously I think there's a line, right? Like there is this push about body positivity, and I agree with that. But medically, if your doctor is telling you that you need to lose weight or you're going to have complications later, I think that you need to listen to your doctor. I don't think that you should just blow your medical professional off and say, oh well, it's body positivity, right?
Yeah.
I think
No.
there is a line there. I think that a lot of what we see in society, obviously, there's a huge push from social media to have the quote unquote perfect skinny body, right? Like your summer skinny or whatever the hell they're calling it now. I don't even know. But
Summer
I
skinny.
just
What is that? I
that's
never
like
even
your
heard of that.
like your bikini body, your like your beach ready body, you know.
Okay, yeah, that ship sailed a long time ago. So anyway, keep going though.
But I think that the pressure from social media is a lot, especially for young girls. And I mean, you open up social media and all you see are these perfect model looking bodies, and we I think block out in our mind that everyday people don't look like that. That's why those people have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, is because they have that quote unquote perfect body that sometimes is altered by plastic surgery, or they go to the gym, like 6 hours a day, 5 days a
Mm-hmm.
week, right? it's
Yeah.
not plausible for some people. Some people just, like you said, don't have the genetics for it. Um, I mean, I'm 6'4". I'm very tall, but I'm also very skinny. I weigh like 165 pounds. So I am extremely skinny, but also really tall. And I I'm on probably closer to the opposite side of the spectrum than you are, right? So like something
Yeah.
that when I open up social media, it's all these men who are extremely jacked, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
the perfect male body in social media is you're above 6 foot, but you're also, muscly and you have abs and you have, you're just jacked because you spend so much time in the gym. But it's just not realistic for some people. And I think that oftentimes as a society, opening up social media, we set expectations in our mind of what other people find attractive and what we should look like as a society. And it isn't always there for most people, I would argue, for
Oh
99% of the
yeah, for sure.
population. For 99% of the population, I feel like it's not realistic. And we forget that those people are being paid because they look like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's
No.
kind of how I feel about it. I mean, I think there's a fine line between being happy with who you are and the whole body positivity movement and the shaming and all that. And the fine line between that and what's medically necessary between your doctor. I think everybody should be happy with their own body and do whatever. But on the other hand, if medically your doctor tells you or medical professionals suggest that you should lose weight or you should gain weight on the other side of the spectrum, I don't think you should blow them off and just scream social media jargon at them. I think you should listen to them.
No, I think I agree with you. I think it's important that we have, and I liked how you brought up the other side of it when you talking about men, because my question in my head, actually, I wasn't even thinking about men and young men, like how they have the opposite, where you see those images of, they got the 6-pack abs and the buff arms, and the legs are looking good. I didn't even think about flipping the script. I was thinking more so from a woman's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think, you have these people out here that are like, well, this is what you should look like and this is what you should be. And it's like you said, it's just not realistic. You have to be honest with yourself. Now, I'm not, and I'm very big into it should be overall wellness, right? And everybody's overall wellness is different. Mine is different than yours is different than mine, and that's okay. But overall, do you have a healthy wellness about you? And I feel like wellness also includes mental and physical, right? And so I think it's important that we advocate for these young girls that everybody is not going to look like a Kylie Jenner or a Kendall Jenner.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've seen the picture. I only saw it because it was posted on Facebook and one of my friends talked about it, of her. She's in like a little red bikini. Have you seen this picture?
Which one, Kylie or Kendall?
I think it's Kylie, or maybe it's Kendall. I don't know. One of them
Yeah,
is in like
I haven't seen it.
it's like a skimpy little red bikini, right? And she's taking the picture, how everybody does. You stand in front of your full length mirror and you snap the selfie, and and you can see the whole thing. And she has, quote unquote, the small chest, the skinny waist, the hips, the hourglass hips and everything. And everyone's like, oh, that's just the perfect image of, how you should be. But that's not how you should be. You have to be what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scarring to young girls. It's scarring to young girls. And I always try to tell my daughter, I'm like, girl, you got your mama's genes. You were blessed with stuff in the front and stuff in the back. So you just need to own it and work it. It's okay. And I said, and when you start dating, the guys sometimes they like a little more stuff to hang on to, right? They don't want somebody they could be with that they feel like they're going to break in half.
Mm-hmm.
So you just, you have to embrace the things that, own them and just love your body for what it is. Now, I will say this. as a curvy girl, there are, and I know this is probably everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. I feel as a curvy girl, though, you still do need to dress appropriately for your body. So what that means is that you can wear leggings. You can wear some leggings. That's fine. Wear the leggings. Make sure that they're not see-through. You know, I'm talking about when sometimes the girls wear the leggings and they're a little bit too see-through. So you got to make sure that your leggings aren't see-through, but also you got to make sure that you wear a top that's appropriate. Now, what that means to me is like, listen, if you are a little bit more of a curvy girl, right? And so, but you have a little bit of a skinny waist and you want to kind of wear a crop toppy, totally, you know, as long as you're owning it and working it, right? But at the same time, if you're a little bit thicker curvy girl and you know that you probably should not be wearing a crop top, you shouldn't just wear a crop top just to be like, it's body positivity, I can wear a crop top. No, girlfriend. There are some rules to dressing as a curvy girl. Like you have to know what's gonna work and what's not. You just can't be throwing on anything. You can't just be like throwing it on and be like, I look cute. Because there's just some times where it just does not look cute. I know this probably gonna get me in trouble. I've always felt that way. Like, listen, we talked about summertime. Bikinis, yes, curvy girls, wear them. But make sure you pick a bikini that is right for your body. Don't just be wearing any old kind of bikini out in the streets on the beach. Like, you just can't do it. Like, go to the store, find one that fits well for you, that's going to highlight all the good things about your curviness. Just don't be like, oh, I'm just going to wear whatever bikini. No, you can't do that. Like, you got to make sure that you're dressing appropriately for your curvy girl swag body, what works for you. And I think that's the thing that's sometimes I think people get lost in that with the body positivity. They're like, oh, I should, da, da, da. And what you're comfortable with. Some people aren't comfortable with wearing a two-piece bikini, right? And that's okay. But I'm a big fan. I'm a big person of, you can wear stuff, but make sure that it appropriately fits your body. And you know your body. Just don't be, because there are just some things that I feel like and now it's gotten better. Because way back 10 years ago, I mean, let's think about it. I mean, you didn't really see plus size models. Like, it wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? You didn't see, curvier girls or curvier women modeling like mainstream things. You just didn't see that. You didn't hear it. So it has definitely gotten better, but I still think you have to be conscious of how, like, you have to dress your body appropriately, what works for you. And I think sometimes that gets lost. That message gets lost because, people are like, well, I should be able to wear whatever I want and do whatever I want and blah, 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 blah. No, dial it in, sister. Dial it in. Like, there is a limit. Like, there is a limit. You have to find what looks good on your body. You just can't be. And I think curvy girls have to be even more conscious of that because they have, some have bigger breasts, some have bigger hips, some have bigger Georgia peaches. That's your booty, by the way. If you didn't know what a Georgia peach was, your booty is your Georgia peach. Some got bigger Georgia peaches in the back. So you might need a little more coverage in the back than what you typically are used to. Like, you just got to make sure that you're dressing appropriately for your curvy girl swag. You just can't be out in the streets wearing any old thing. And make sure you go to the stores that are for you, right? Don't be thinking you can go to, like, American Eagle, right? Knowing that they don't have your size, but you're going to try to squeeze into that size. Like, don't do it, sister. Go to a store that will fit you appropriately. Try stuff on. And sometimes you got to pay a little bit more too. Sometimes you do have to pay a little bit more, but if it fits you good and you look good in it and you feel good in it, it's okay to pay that extra price.
So there's a couple things that you said that I just want to give my opinion on. First of all, like, going back to Kylie Jenner and how she looks, I just think it's important to note that she didn't always look like that, right? I don't really follow the Kardashians. And
I don't either. I don't either. I just saw that one of my good friends had had posted that picture, and next to it was a picture, I'll send it to you, was a picture of a girl who just completed the astronaut program at 17. You know, she's
Mm,
like brilliant, and she had this beautiful smile, and she was completely covered up, but yet her countenance was so much better than what you saw with Kylie Jenner. And I'm not taking this away. I'm sure she's a very nice person. I've never met her. But you could
mhm.
just see a difference in her countenance and how she presented herself. And
Yeah.
the question was, why can't we normalize this young girl who's 17? You know, obviously she's brilliant because she just completed the NASA program, so she can
Hmm.
technically go into space. Yet here we are normalizing and like glorifying the fact that she's in a little red bikini, you know, and not taking nothing away. I'm sure she works hard to maintain that body, but it's like you said, that's not what the average American is and what is normal for the average woman. I mean, I believe the average size for a woman is now 12, a size 12, either 12 or 14.
I have no
Um,
idea.
I think that's what it is. I'm going to look it up while you give your opinion. Go ahead, give your opinion, and then I'm going to look
Yeah.
something up.
So I just think it's like again, as I was saying, I mean, I never really followed the Kardashians or the Jenners. I'm not really a huge fan of the whole reality TV thing and how they're famous for basically nothing. But the reason why I know a little bit about Kylie Jenner is because obviously she was born into wealth, but she's a businesswoman. She made a lot of money with her cosmetics company and selling it off to a larger cosmetics company. So it's just interesting to me that she's only like a couple years older than I am, and she's a billionaire, or maybe she's not anymore. I think I saw in the news that she's not. But anyway, she has thousands of times more money than I do, basically. So I find it interesting that she's only a few years older than me, and what she's done in her life has been more than what I will probably ever do in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you look at pictures of her when she was younger, when she was like 16 and 15, she looks nothing like she did back then. You know what I mean? It's very obvious that she's had plastic surgery, whether it be a butt lift, or she got her boobs done, or her lips, or her face. She just looks completely different, and maybe it's makeup and just like the overall appearance and shadows, and she takes use of how cosmetics look on her face.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Kylie Jenner specifically, I mean, she has money. You know what I mean? She has a lot of money, and so do all the other Jenners. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just with money, more things are possible, right? It's possible to get things that you don't like redone, and so you
Yeah.
look more to your ideal standards. Another thing that you said about women dressing, especially curvy girls, you said dressing to their body type. As a man, I don't think that I should really comment on this. So I'm just going to leave it at this. I would never tell a woman what to wear, right? And I think a lot of this goes back to like a kind of misogyny kind of thing. Like, I don't think you should be telling your partners how to dress. If you can ask their opinion, you can say like, "Hey, do you like this?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I like it," or like, "No, I don't really like it." But I'm not going to tell you. It's what I always say to my partner is like, "Babe, it's your body. Like, you wear whatever you're comfortable wearing." And I think as long as you're comfortable wearing whatever you want to wear, then it is what it is, right?
Yes.
Obviously, if you go to extremes, if you're pulling a Lady Gaga meat dress out of your closet, then somebody might have a little bit more opinion. But overall, like, if you want to wear a crop top, wear a crop top. Like, I don't really care. And I think men need to realize this more, is that we shouldn't be telling women what to do with their bodies, even if they are currently with us in a relationship, in a committed relationship. I don't think we should have a say in what they wear unless they ask us our opinion. Thirdly, the addition of like plus size models, I think, is very interesting, because you're right. I feel like the push, really after Me Too, the Me Too movement,
Okay.
um, I think that's when we started seeing more women uplifting women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now even in places like American Eagle. They're starting to have plus size models and plus size clothing, because I think there is this huge push, and they're starting to realize that there is a market out there for
there's a
people who are
huge
bigger.
market. By the
Yeah.
way, I looked it up. The average size, and this is, average for a woman is 14. The average size is 14.
Is that in the US?
In the US, the average clothing size for women is 14.
Okay, so for everybody listening out there, can you explain like what the women's sizes are? Because I can tell you men's sizes are super easy. You take one of those clothing ruler things, you know what I'm talking about? Like the tape.
Yeah, the tape measure.
Yeah. Yeah, you take one of those, you put it around your waist. If you have a 30-inch waist in men's or a 34-inch waist in men's, you're a size 34 in width. And then your inseam, which is from your crotch down to your ankle, is the same thing. So like if you have a 30-inch inseam, you would be, and a 30-inch waist, you'd be a 30-30, right?
Yeah. So women's clothing doesn't necessarily like run like that per se.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So it's kind of a wide range. So like for instance, if you're a size, like sometimes the clothes will say 8/10. So the smallest person would be a size 8. And it's usually kind of weight based. And then it can go up to a size 10. So a size 14, let me see. Let me go back to my, let's see. Yeah, a size 14 can vary. It can look different. Like I have friends that, they're skinny in the waist, but they got a little more Georgia peach in hips. So they wear a size 14, but their top size may be like a medium, because up top, they're not huge. They're not like watermelons up top, but they may be, I don't know, like cantaloupes. That's the way I can describe it, right? So women's sizes are very I feel like women's sizes are subjective, and it's always hard. I'm a curvy girl. So I need to try on jeans because I got a lot of Georgia peach back there. So I just can't roll into the store and be like, oh, let me grab these jeans, right? And after having 3 kids, my body has evolved and it's changed. So what I wore, literally 12 years ago is different now. And coupled with the fact that, I'm in my 40s, so menopause is going to be soon upon me, and your body changes through menopause. It's different. So I need to try things on because, I know they try to make it kind of general sizes for women, but sometimes it's just not that way. Like I need, like what I thought, for instance, case in point, I liked a brand of jeans, love them. So, and typically when I really like something like jeans or something, I usually buy 2 or 3 because I'm like, oh, this is it. This is what I love. Right. So I had 2 or 3 pairs of jeans, love them. They were my favorites. So over time, jeans get worn. You're like, oh, I got to go buy new jeans. And so I went back to the same store. Was like, oh, this is the cut. This is what I like. Same, everything. I went to try them on and I hated them. I hated the way they fit. Right. Because they changed. And I don't know if they changed the cut or how it felt. They just felt horrible on me, like horrible. And I was like, this is not happening right now. Like, I was like, these are my jeans. So I went and got.
You were having like a crisis.
I was in the store. Like, and ladies, you probably can relate to this. Like you find something and you love it and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy 2 or 3. And then it gets worn out. And then you have to go back and you're going to go back and you see the same thing. And it's the same cut, same brand, everything. And you think it's going to fit great. And you try it on and it's like the worst thing ever. And you're in the middle of the store and you're about to have a panic attack crisis because those were like your go-to jeans and now your go-to jeans don't fit anymore. And I don't know if like the company changes the cut or whatever. So then you're you're in the store for much longer than when you want to be because you're trying to figure out what kind of jeans you're going to wear and what's the new cut and new fit. And so you finally find it and then you buy 2 pair or 3 pair, knowing that probably in 3 or 4 years, you're probably going to be back doing the same thing because things evolve and things change with how companies restructure and cut and brand. And so it's not the same. I wish it was the same like men's. Like, I wish it could be, I would be like, oh, I'm a 48-30. Great. Boom. Move on. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, my husband's super easy. He's like, boom. Yep. Okay. Now he likes to wear his jeans a little bit on the baggier side. He always has. So, but it's so easy for you guys to, sometimes for men just to go, it's pretty cut and dry. For ladies, it's not so much. Like, you have to, does it have enough stretch in them, right? How do you feel? I mean, does your Georgia peach look good? Like, there's so many things that you have to think about when buying clothes, right? But I just think that it's important too that, I'm not saying you can't wear whatever you want, because I think you have to wear what's comfortable, but you also have to dress appropriately for your body type. And, girl, wear that crop top, but make sure the crop top is going to accentuate all the things that are right and not all the things that are wrong, is my big thing. And by the way, you know me, I'm a straight shooter. So I appreciate those friends, girls and guys that are like, oh girl, you should have not worn that outfit. Like, like that's me though. I appreciate that. Like, so when my husband asks, when I say, oh babe, does this look good on me? Like, and I can see, like, if he stalls and makes a face, then I'm like, no, I shouldn't wear this out. Nope, not wearing that out. And I don't get offended, because I know that he's looking out for my best interest, because, I don't want to be out in the streets looking all ratchety and ragged when he could have stopped me from looking ratchety and ragged in the streets. So I'm the type of person that I appreciate people saying, oh girl, no. Girl, you need to retire. Like, I know you loved that outfit 2 years ago, but it's not the outfit for you now. So you just need to move on from that outfit. And I appreciate those friends, because those are the ones that I'm like, yep, those are the ride or die friends, because they tell you when it's good, when it's bad, and when it's ugly. So I do appreciate that. And I have friends that'll be like, oh no, don't wear that, girl. You should just put that back in the closet. Better yet, you should donate that and let it find a new home for someone who will look just as fabulous as you looked in it 2 years ago. I appreciate that. So, but that's me though. Anyway, so yeah, that was my question. It's just been a lot. Yeah, it's been a lot on my mind, just because, I'm watching my daughter kind of go through the struggle of, her body. Like I said, her body's changing, and, and listen, everybody's bodies changes, especially at her age, differently. Everybody, it changes differently. And, she sees some of her little friends and she's like, they're so skinny. And I'm like, but that's them. That's their DNA makeup. That's not your DNA makeup. And that's okay. I mean, appreciate what you have. And listen, it's going to change again in 5 years, and it's going to change again in 10 years. It's going to change again when you have kids. And, that's part of the beauty of the body, that it's constantly evolving and changing. So those were two different questions. Very serious and fun, but yet two different questions. But anyway, if you like what you're listening to and would like to make a comment, please let us know. We're always open to suggestions, and we appreciate that you take the time each week to listen to our dialogues and listen to the things that are kind of on our mind and in the forefront. And we may not always agree, but we have these dialogues so we can learn and eventually, most importantly, become better humans. I'm Dina McKell.
And I'm Michael Petuhoff.
And this is Slidin with D&M.
Thank you guys for listening. We hope to see you next week.